This is The Horse Show on Wisp Sports Radio, Season 3, Episode 1. The Horse Show features exclusive interviews with riders and trainers across equestrian sport. I'm Chris Stafford, and at Wisp Sports we believe that women in sport deserve equal coverage.
The moments I most enjoyed were normally at home, and when you just got something right and you completely understood or read the horse correctly, and getting those little moments. So when you're going through a tough time in training or something, it's those little rewards when you finally get something right or break through.
That was South African Eventer Katie Keller, who finished up last season being crowned the senior national champion, to confirm that her pony and junior titles were not a passing phase of youth. In 2007, Katie, who recently moved closer to Durban, established her eventing career in the Gauteng Province, following in her mother's footsteps. Katie's passion was inspired by her mother, Karen Keller, who is a well-respected dressage trainer based in Kyalami, Johannesburg. Katie has consistently been on championship teams, and in 2008 she took the Pony Championship title, followed by the Junior title in 2010 and Team Gold Medal in 2012. Clearly devoted to eventing, Katie understands the challenges of establishing an international profile and what it will cost to train and compete overseas. She's had a taste of training in England and in the US with Clayton Fredericks, and one gets the feeling that it's only a matter of time before Katie takes her career to the next level, with four-star events being the main focus. I caught up with Katie at her home in Durban to find out more about her passion and ambition. Katie, welcome to the programme.
Hi.
Well, it's lovely to have you joining us from near Durban in South Africa. Tell us exactly where you're located.
So I'm located just about a 40-minute drive outside the main town, which is Durban, which is just on the coast of Africa. So we've got beautiful sunny weather here at the moment.
Yeah, don't make us too jealous now. I'm sure it's beautiful there. But you only recently moved there. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and give us a picture, if you will. Paint us a picture of your very earliest memories around horses and where it was that you did get immersed in them from a very early age.
Sure. So I grew up originally in Johannesburg, which is up in the northern province, with my mom and my dad there. My mom was very horsey, so she's always ridden her whole life. She originally lived in England, and when she moved out here, she took up riding full-time, and she also instructs. So I was sort of born almost on horseback. I've always been around horses and horse passionate and just loved them. And I just remember even when my mom would ride as a kid, I would canter around on my feet behind her, pretending I was a horse. That's all I could believe I was. I didn't know I was human for most of my life growing up. And then just started, I think because my mom sort of knew a lot of people, they sent us a lot of ponies, and just started riding ponies and just fell madly in love with it. And then I was very lucky to get a very special pony by the name of Blue Bayou. He didn't know much, but he was a very good horse in the country and a very good confidence giver. And since having that pony, my heart was completely set on eventing. And I just loved the sport and just that freedom of galloping with your horse. And also the people in it are really, really great people to be with. And sort of from that, I had a couple of successes. Then I was very lucky to get rides on horses after that. And that just sort of skyrocketed my career and passion for eventing. And yeah, then I moved down to the East Coast, to Durban, and I was lucky to take some of the horses with me to carry on competing. So that's worked out really well.
Well, clearly having that early immersion did it for you and convinced you that's what you always wanted to do. But what did you think it was about your personality that riding, I mean, when there are so many different sports to choose from, and of course so many different equestrian disciplines to choose from, why did you think eventing suited your personality as much as it has done, Katie, when you could have done anything?
Sure, that's interesting. I think the eventing for me, because it's all three phases, it's not just one particular one. You have to really build that bond and connection with your horse. And I think it really came down to that. I loved spending time with my horse, training, doing the fitness, and it's very much a time consuming sport, but I just loved being with my horse. And there's nothing you can skip on the eventing, as in you have to have that strong bond and partnership with your horse. I suppose in any sport it's the same, but eventing just sort of, to me, pushes it even further. That there's no shortcuts or short escapes. You have to have that complete trust and harmony with your horse. Otherwise, it's too risky to go out onto the course if your horse doesn't completely trust you, and you don't completely trust your horse. It's a mutual thing. And I think just being out in the country and it's just you and your horse, that it's like a whole different world of freedom. And I just absolutely love it. I mean, every time I get off after a cross country, it's like on a complete high. Yeah.
Well, you also clearly enjoy the horsemanship side of things as well. And if, as you mentioned, your mother was immersed in England in the English system for a while, so she fully understood horsemanship and obviously passed it along to you too. And you seem to have embraced the horsemanship, the coaching, the interpersonal skills that equestrian sports offers. Talk a little bit about that and why that means so much to you.
Sure. Okay. I think it's such a crucial part. So for a lot of my growing up, I was sort of set and I enjoyed the competition, but it really came down for me that connection and building that bond with the horse and being able to read a horse or understand a horse. And some of my best moments have not actually been in the ring competing. Sure, it's great to compete and be up there and do well, but the moments I most enjoyed were normally at home, and when you just got something right and you completely understood or read the horse correctly, and getting those little moments, it sort of just fuels that next moment. So when you're going through a tough time in training or something, it's those little rewards when you finally get something right or break through and gain an understanding and a connection and like a communication with another living being. Is just so rewarding internally. Like it's like a very fulfilling thing. And I think getting horsemanship and being able to really look after your horse makes you help to understand the horse more when you're riding the horse. And it just builds that deeper bond. And especially for eventing, I can pick up, when the horse is a bit off or when they're feeling good. But I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't know them as a horse in the stable. And being able to do horsemanship and work with the horse off them, not just in the arena, they become your friend. And that's what horses became for me, is they became my friends. And they were there was no judgment or anything, and I could just spend as much time as I wanted with them. And I think that's just why I love the horsemanship so much as well.
Well, certainly in competition, you've made a real success of it, coming up through the ranks, through ponies and juniors now into the senior ranks, Katie, and national champion every time along the way. So congratulations on what you've achieved, and last year, of course, becoming the national champion. What does that mean in terms of your career progression for you, if you put it in context of what you might be able to do in the future on the international stage?
Sure. My dream has always been to either do birdie or badminton, one of the big 4-star events. Being out in South Africa, the technicality of it makes it quite hard with logistics of getting horses over or funding it over there. But if it became a possibility, my dream would be absolutely to do birdie or badminton, or just ride at a 4-star level, even to just meet some of the top instructors and trainers, one of my heroes is Mark Todd, who I would love to one day meet. That's another dream. So moving forward after this, I would love to ride overseas. Currently just completed a coaching course. So depending how that goes, look at possibly moving it overseas. But I do see it as a very long-term plan to go over and just do it for 1 or 2 years. I don't think is quite viable unless you have a lot of luck on your side. So I'm looking at it if I were to go over on a very long-term, at least 5 to 10 year basis, and building up sort of a team and a network. And so that would be one of my dream visions if it were possible.
And you've always considered education, in your academic prowess and career, if you will, to be as important and integral in your whole career picture too, haven't you? To have something to fall back on, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about that, because you now seem to have really taken an interest in coaching. So talk about your education and what that has been in terms of being the foundation for everything else, Katie.
So when I left school, as a riding career, because my mum's always been in horses, I obviously saw the not so easy side of it as well. I suppose any business, you've got the side you love and working with the horses, but there's also the difficult side of the stresses, the long hours and all of that. And it's also a risky sport. So I went out of school and I said, let me just get a degree. So it's not necessarily that I was going to go into whatever degree I got as a business, but it would just be something to fall back on if riding didn't work out or I had an injury or something. So then accounting was a subject I was most passionate about, so I just decided to do the accounting degree. I was lucky to be able to study from home, which let me continue riding, so I didn't have to take the break in my riding. And then recently I came across, so as a kid, I loved doing vision boards and drawing up dream lives and that kind of thing. And I drew up a vision board, and about 5 years later, I found that same board, and on it, I had achieved all the championships and owned all the horses I dreamed of owning. And that really amazed me. And that's what got me into then looking at the coaching side of things to see why have I had such success and luck. And then after going in and researching and doing the course, I've now developed a huge passion to coach and help other people in the sport and develop the sport and empower people to really achieve the goals they want and the dreams they want to, because it really is possible. And so through that, I've sort of finished the accounting, but it's not something I'm going to pursue. And the coaching has become a real new passion. And by doing that, it allows me then to pursue my riding as well and my dreams for my riding. So that's sort of where my career vision is heading now.
And when you look back then at what you've achieved as a pony rider, junior, young rider, and now coming into the senior ranks, what means the most to you as you've progressed?
Sure, that's what I'd definitely say. Meet the people I've met, the things I've learned along the way, and the person you become through that, and the obstacles you've overcome. So it's not so much about the successes, but what it took to get there. And when you overcome obstacles in life or what you don't think is ever going to be possible, and then your dreams come true through miracles of the universe and from people around you that have just been so kind. Without them, I wouldn't have got where I am, has really been the most meaningful to me. So I definitely say my best moments were the people I've met and the different horses I've learned and the obstacles I've overcome to show me that it's really possible. And that's why I really hope to give back and help other people show that it really is possible.
Now, let's talk about the horses that you've had, the ones that have enabled you to be as successful as you have been so far in your young career, Katie. Now, did those horses and ponies mainly come from your mother, Karen, or do you have sponsors? Talk a little bit about, the journey of choosing those horses, how they came to you in the past, and now give us a picture of your training establishment at the moment and how many horses you have.
Okay, so a lot of my ponies my mom bought or helped we chose together. She was quite hands off with what I did. So she never pushed me or said, you have to buy this pony or that pony. She sort of let me choose, which I think is a saving grace because it kept my passion going and it didn't feel like I had to do it or I was forced to do it. I did it because I really wanted to, and it was my own drive. But she would really then give advice and suggestions on what a good horse was or good pony or that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, she really did what I felt in my heart is the right pony for me and choose that pony. And then very early on, she sort of just left me. She would help if I asked for help, but she let other people help and instruct if I wanted. And she sort of kept hands off. And then when I got really keen, I thought, no, I'm very keen. I'm very dedicated. Then I had to sell my pony as you outgrow ponies and move on to a horse. And then at the time, we just didn't have enough money to buy a going horse or a horse at the time. But we had another guy by the name of Mike Marsden who owned racehorses. He was a racehorse owner. And he had a mare come off the track. And he said, no one wants the mare. Would you like her? So at the time, we had no money to buy a horse. So my mom said, it's this horse or no horse. So I took her on. And I mean, for the first 2 months, we didn't see eye to eye. I get on with a lot of horses, but me and her, we didn't quite get on. And my mom just said, well, it's that horse or no horse. And that horse ended up teaching me the most important things in riding, and that is dedication and commitment. And you just do it no matter what. And she really taught me and got me up. She was the first horse I took 2-star. And she wasn't the most talented horse or the best in the dressage, but she had the biggest heart in the cross country. And once we sort of got through our differences and worked together, we ended up being such a strong team, and she gave me such confidence to go up the levels. So she was my biggest teacher as a horse. And then after that, I was very lucky because my mom had very good connections in the sport to be able to get rides on some really nice going horses. And then the recent horse that I just won the big championships on last year, he came to me. So the lady stabled with us. She kept a little pony, and she had this horse and sort of said, she's not experienced enough to ride him. Would I like the ride on him? And so I took him on, and he was really, really special. And she fully sponsored him and owned him. And so that was a really great opportunity because it allowed me then to travel and go to shows and compete more and really have the instruction that I needed and could then have access to. And she sponsored me to go overseas to England to train for a little while and to America to train, which without her and that horse, it wouldn't have been possible. And she really helped skyrocket my career to where it is today. And then currently at the moment, so I've got 2 sort of youngsters. So I ended up selling the horse I won on last year to a young girl, just more for the reason of the horse has been to the top, and to end on a good high with that horse, I found more important than pushing him to do more than what he's done. And it also then gives a young rider the opportunity that I had to learn and experience and grow her riding. So at the moment, I've just got 2 young horses that I'm currently bringing up the levels. One's a really novice 1-star horse, so that's most probably my most exciting up-and-coming prospect.
Well, that sounds like you're going in the general direction that you want to go anyway. So it's a continuum and the arc of your story is really quite incredible, Katie, and it bodes well for the future. And I'm wondering now, in terms of the business of it, though, in South Africa and the opportunities that you have there, how do you see that progressing? I'm just wondering how, with the training that you might have, the coaches that are available, before you do have to make that jump and that leap to go abroad and train abroad and take your horses with you.
Yeah, sure. It's very different here, as in we definitely have very good horses, riders, and instructors. The only thing that's hugely different is we don't have the numbers that they do overseas and the funding. So here, I mean, if we have 10 people, we're able to run a 3-star track and a very good one, and we have very good riders, but then there's only 10 entries, which is tiny compared to maybe 300 or 400 entries that you'd get overseas. So I think the big jump from moving here to overseas is just the vast size of it. And you sort of go from South Africa, you have your setup, you know the people, you know where the vets are, where the physios are, you've got your friends, your family, your backup. And then to suddenly move overseas to somewhere where you don't really know anyone, there's just hundreds of good riders, you're just another rider. To really make that break and get to the top is, I mean, quite a thing. And also to do it on one horse is sort of not impossible for a lot of people. I think overseas, the really good riders have a string of horses and a really good backing system, where in South Africa you sort of have your 1 or 2 horses that you produce and keep sound and as you go along. And I think it's just sort of so much bigger overseas, and to adjust to that can overwhelm a lot of people. So I think that would be most probably the biggest adjustment, is just the vast size of it and the number of competitions. Here we sort of have one cross-country a month and then maybe 2 show jumping shows. Where overseas, I mean, there's 2 or 3 a weekend, which is just completely different numbers game. And I mean, it would be fantastic for South Africa to get to that level, but I just think at the moment we lack the numbers and the funding, unfortunately.
And you have big ambitions. I've read that you do want to get your Springbok colours and ride at 4-star level, as we heard earlier. You dream of going to Badminton and Burghley. But does any of that, being in that international arena, intimidate you at all, Katie, given the environment that you're coming from?
Sure. I think it would be hard to say. I'm sure it would be a big eye-opener and a whole different standard and view of the sport. But I think you can only know if you really go over there and try. I've always dreamed about competing on one of those big tracks. And I think the biggest thing would be to mentally handle that amount of pressure, and also that amount of funding. I mean, it's not a small thing to just sort of go overseas and move overseas and fund that thing. And there's a lot of people behind it and backing. And I think the biggest pressure would be not to let others down. Would be able to fulfill the dream, but also not let others down on those who back me and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. Well, finally, tell us about your plans now in January. And talk a little bit about, of course, you're in the Southern Hemisphere, so let's hear what your plans are for the season when that starts and what you're planning to do.
Okay, so our season sort of runs very intermittently throughout the year. We used to only run it through summer, but now because we're able to irrigate the growing in that, we're able to run throughout the year sort of shows. So it sort of starts beginning of the year with more smaller just training shows, which I'll take the younger event horse to and just do some training rounds and start building up the new horse that I got. That's the 1-star horse. He's been out of work for a while, so I'll just start building up his fitness. And then in between, I also ride for a couple of people. So I'll work with those horses as well. So my first cross-country show, I've had a few dressage training shows, will be the end of February when I take the first horse out. So we're just preparing for that one at the moment.
And what else do you do in sport, Katie? Do you do any cross training?
Yes, so I enjoy my running quite a bit, and then I do Pilates. I find Pilates or yoga has been one of the biggest help for horse riding, cross training, to help me strengthen up for my sport. And then otherwise, just nothing sort of replaces riding fitness. Or to me, riding is uses so many different muscle groups. But definitely Pilates, I think, would be the closest to helping me strengthen my riding. And then I do the running so that I'm fit for cross country and course walks. I think it's a huge thing to also not just be physically fit, but also mentally fit. And I find a lot of people that get tired towards the cross country at the end are not always physically tired, but mentally tired. So I do a lot of mental training and focus and preparation for my cross country and shows and competition and that. So I'm able to stay mentally focused throughout the course, which I find has been a huge aid in sort of achieving better success in my riding.
Well, you certainly have had the success already, national champion there in September last year, following your national championship titles as a junior and pony rider. Katie, I want to wish you the very, very best of luck with your ambitions and hopefully making it into the international arena. And we will follow you all the way to Burghley or Babington, I hope. And you'll have to come back on the show and tell us about your international experiences. So the very best of luck for you.
Thank you so much. It was great being on your show.
And you'll find a link to Katie's social media as well as the full transcript of this episode on our show notes at wispsports.com. And whilst you're there, be sure to check out the many more conversations from the world of women's sports. We have videos, blogs and articles, as well as the podcast, of course, on Wisp Sports Radio, which you can download to any podcast player. There are over 760 episodes now. And we'd always love to hear from you. If you'd like to join in the conversation, you can do so by writing to us at info@wispsports.com or following us on social media at Wisp Sports, where you can post any comments, questions or suggestions on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter and LinkedIn. We'd love to hear what you think about the shows that you listen to on Wisp Sports Radio or any of the content at wispsports.com. We appreciate your likes, comments and follows. And if you find yourself in iTunes, we'd love to get a review too in Wisp Sports Radio. We'd really appreciate that. We know you have a lot of choices when it comes to podcasts, so we really appreciate you taking the time to listen to Wisp Sports Radio. Until the next time, thank you for listening.